The circular blue flashes seen in this video are frequency transmissions from the Nexrad network of transmitter installations. All available science evidence makes clear that atmospheric frequency transmissions can and do have a repelling effect on air masses, especially if and when the air masses have been seeded with electrically conductive nanoparticles. The brighter the blue flash from a frequency transmission installation, the more pronounced and powerful the repelling effect on any air mass or storm in the vicinity will be. Where there are no blue flashes, there is no transmission, thus no repelling effect, thus no resistance for a migrating storm. Translation: a migrating storm will be hindered from moving toward frequency transmissions and will easily migrate in a direction with no transmissions. So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered? You decide.
But take a look at this anomaly that's shooting down almost to where we're going to see landfall. It's very interesting. I'm curious to see if this thing actually lands right on top of where we think landfall is going to be. Now there's something else kind of shooting out here underneath this layer of moisture over the southeast. It looks like it's coming from either northern Florida or a radar tower in southern Georgia, but the main one right here, look at this big beam that shoots down right to about here. That's where we're expecting landfall, give or take. Now something even more interesting I want to show you on a more detailed chart. All right, I'll show you once here and then we'll zoom in, but take a look. It's coming from up in this area and it shoots down right to about here where we're expecting landfall. I'll move forward and you'll pretty much see it right away. There it is now. Boom, right here. Okay, so now we're going to zoom in and see exactly where this thing points to, because that is not your normal beam that you see coming from these radar. It's definitely coming from the state of Georgia, probably underneath this mess here. It's coming this way and there's a cross of that other beam either coming from northern Florida or southern Georgia. All right, this is about as close as we're going to get. We're going to see one anomaly over here in the western panhandle, and then we're going to look for that shot we were just looking at. We move one frame, boom, here's those weird waves that come off. We see this a lot underneath heavy systems, especially when they're approaching the coastlines. Now we're going to look for our beam here. We're going to see it pretty well. It's right about there. So this is pretty odd. I want to know what's going on here, and there's our cross beam again, looking like it's coming from Florida itself, so it's coming up into this direction. This one is certainly coming down from Georgia into Florida, almost to where we're seeing landfall. If we backtrack a little bit, you could see here the momentum wants to bring this storm up and then kind of oof right into this area here. Maybe a little north, but that's what we're seeing. But take a look at these anomalies every couple frames, specifically that one we are looking at. There's another big one right there. It's kind of a sweeper. It's got multiple beams and it sweeps left to right. And now watch as we approach. You're going to see a bunch of little ones, and then we're going to see our landfall beam. That's the only thing I can think of naming it right now. There it is. Boom, right there.
It lays the predicate foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, September 30th, 2024. The inspired mantra remains: we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. Thank you so much for tuning in on X Rumble and YouTube and in the live chat. I know you all been chatting already. I want to welcome you all. Thank you for being here. There are some folks today who are not with us that tune in regularly from North Carolina, from East Tennessee, from Georgia, that are cut off by this freak tropical storm hurricane that is wreaking havoc unlike anything that was expected. And unfortunately, we've had this discussions with people behind the scenes here that are researching these phenomena. Unfortunately, no one is shocked anymore. Nobody is surprised if we find anomalies, if we find that somehow there has been manipulation. And we're going to dive deep into that possibility today here, what that means, how it could be done, what technologies actually exist. But let's look first at what we currently know about this hurricane, my friends. So as of September 30th, this is right now, for those who are watching later, Hurricane Helene has caused catastrophic damage and flooding across the southeastern United States, resulting in at least 95 fatalities. That number is likely to go up. Over 2 million people remain without power, with the hardest hit areas including Florida's Big Bend region, Georgia's Lowndes County, and North Carolina's western parts. Widespread flooding has occurred, with some areas experiencing literal biblical devastation. Rescue efforts are ongoing, with emergency responders working to reach trapped residents and provide aid. Around 1,000 people are still unaccounted for, including a dear friend of ours who was in that region. Should be very well equipped to make it through. He's a survival guide, really good, but still he's missing and we haven't heard from him. So we're going to look at some of the anomalies and how the media is downplaying some of them. And this, we've heard these stories before. There's a weird picture. There's like, they found these blue thingies within the eye of the hurricane. And the story, this was in previous storms before, and this is what the media writes about. It's a strange blob in the center of raging Hurricane Helene that was picked up via radar, had more than 1.4 million X viewers baffled. The X post by Colin McCarthy revealed the radar anomaly was actually a cluster of birds caught in the eye of the hurricane over Tallahassee. The source is from the the Daily Mail. So, this is what happens, and this is sort of I'm not saying that this particular image weren't birds. I'm saying this is the kind of responses that you get from the assholes in the mainstream media on a regular basis that sort of just, think anything is a conspiracy theory. But we're gonna dive deep into what's actually possible. Here we see, which you saw in the intro video, which are beams, which seems to be radar beams. At least that's what it was. And they came from multiple directions. They were anomalies. And these are meteorologists that actually look at this data. It's not me saying this. And researchers who've been doing this for a very long time, like Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org, a friend that we had on quite a few times. He's talked about these blue dots here, these blue frequency transmissions. And here's his explanation for those who haven't listened closely in the intro. Dane Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org describes circular blue flashes. Okay, so look at them here. You see them here? The circular blue flashes right on the right in what's the yellow and the green, that's the hurricane system. And those circular blue flashes is what he's talking about. And he says, which are claimed to be frequency transmission from the Nexrad network. That's what he says. These transmissions, according to the speaker, Dane Wigington, can repel air masses, particularly those containing electrically conductive nanoparticles. The intensity of the blue flashes indicates the strength of the repelling effects on nearby storms or air masses. If there are no blue flashes, no repelling effect occurs, allowing storms to migrate in that direction. So what he's saying is that these blue flashes might be emissions from Nexrad, we're going to get into that in a moment here, that are repelling the storm system and pushing it, in this case, towards the east, which we've all seen an unexpected turn. Everybody was expecting landfall to go further west. It was as far west as Destin, Florida, and Pensacola, and then it moved to the east towards more like the Port St. Joe, Apalachicola area, and then it moved even further east, which the last turn was sort of very unexpected. And Dane Wigington thinks this might be a Nexrad thing. So what is Nexrad? This is very interesting because a lot of people do not connect Nexrad with weather modification. Nexrad is next generation radar, is a network of high resolution Doppler weather radars used primarily in the United States. It helps detect precipitation, wind, and atmospheric phenomena, allowing for weather forecasting, storm tracking, and severe weather warnings. Nexrad works by emitting radio waves and interpreting the reflected signals from particles in the atmosphere, providing detailed information on storm structure, rainfall intensity, and wind patterns. It plays a crucial role in meteorology by identifying tornadoes, hurricanes, and other severe weather events. Now, this is the official description of Nexrad. However, there were a few researchers that went deep into the theory that the Doppler radars, it's actually a weather weapon hidden in plain sight, so that these are actually they are emitting frequencies that actually manipulate, change, or even create weather patterns. The most prominent researcher on this subject disappeared, and her channel disappeared, and she's been putting this out for quite some time. So I would encourage you all to look into the Doppler radar weather modification theory, which is not often talked about. Everybody knows about HARP by now and a few other, but very few people are actually talking about the Doppler radar. Okay, let's talk a little more. Here's some quotes by Dane Wigington. I mean, read a little more. And Dane has been on our channel, and I've asked Dane repeatedly, Dane, what do you think of this weather phenomenon or that weather phenomenon? And Dane repeatedly says we haven't had natural, quote unquote, natural weather in 25 years, according to one of the most prominent researchers, creators of documentaries. He says the climate engineering insanity is nothing short of weather warfare. We're literally living in a climate engineering chemical experiment, and the consequences are becoming catastrophic. Global climate engineering operations are the single greatest threat to the Earth's remaining life support systems. Now, if you want to learn more about Dane Wigington and his work, go to geoengineeringwatch.org, or you can also search on YouTube for Dane Wigington Inspired, and you'll find our interviews with him. So weather modification, here's the thing. Let me take this off. Today, to this day, when you talk to people in normal settings, you talk, weather modification, they laugh at you at best, and then the only thing they probably heard about is maybe cloud seeding, and maybe the Chinese have done something and the Russians have done something, but this is all futuristic stuff that doesn't really exist. Well, let's look into some of the official patents, the weather modification patents that very well exist officially. Okay, so I'm not going to read you the numbers. Okay, you can read them yourself, but here you have one: weather modification by artificial satellites from 1971. Method for modifying weather using satellites. This is what Lyndon B. Johnson was talking about in the intro. Then we have one: artificial ion cloud method and apparatus, also from 71, for creating artificial ion clouds to alter atmospheric conditions. Then you have another one from 2006, the hurricane and tornado control device, a method of disrupting or controlling the energy of hurricanes and tornadoes. Well, could this possibly 18 years after it's been patented be used, right? Is there a chance that these patents, like most patents, are not just patented, but are actually being used for things? I'm just thinking out loud here. Then you have a method and apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere from 1987. This patent, linked to HARP, describes a system for altering the ionosphere. Another one, a system and method for wind and water alteration from 2007, used to control atmospheric conditions, specifically rain and wind. So as you can see, these patents basically cover the entire basis. If you can make it dry, you can make it wet. Oops. You can make it windier. You can steer things. I mean, just saying, this is quite incredible, actually. So when we look into the official position of the government and how the government might be involved in this, because these patents mostly are held by the government, by the way. So you have the NOAA's role, and the NOAA monitors weather modification projects under the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972, which requires any such activities to be reported to the federal government, which you will maybe see is interesting because the government has mainly always denied any large-scale weather modification projects. And it's the media and everyone else is claiming we're all just tinfoil heads, but this was 1972. So there's an agency in place that their role is to track and monitor weather modification projects that officially don't exist. According to reports from organizations tracking weather modification activities, there are dozens of active weather modification projects in the US. These projects mainly focus on cloud seeding to increase rainfall, hail suppression, and snowpack augmentation in regions like California, Texas, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Colorado. There is no official acknowledgement of large-scale weather control. So this is sort of the official government-based position. The U.S. does not officially recognize or engage in large-scale weather manipulation or control like altering hurricanes, and has signed the ENMOD Convention, which prohibits the military or any hostile use of environmental modification techniques, including weather manipulation in warfare. So some people would say, well, okay, so there's basically a convention in place that prohibits the government. No, there are conventions and agreements with other nations in place, and this is a Geneva Convention, by the way, which simply states that they can't use it for destructive purposes against other states. Nowhere does it say technically that they can't alter things, and we don't know, by the way, who has access to such technologies. So here's the ENMOD Convention. Article 1 prohibits the use of environmental modification techniques as a means of destruction, damage, or injury to any other state party. Okay, so that's that. So officially, you can't use weather warfare against other parties or modification. Now, we should ask the Syrians and the Turks. If you remember the huge earthquake, hundreds of thousands of people died. Was it last year? Year before last? Remember when Istanbul didn't want to play ball about the new NATO members, and then Erdogan played ball after that natural earthquake that no one ever talks about anymore? Well, you know, sometimes I guess they break their own rules. The convention defines environmental modification techniques as deliberate manipulations of natural processes affecting the Earth's biota, lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, or outer space. The treaty entered into force for the United States on January 17, 1980, after ratification by the Senate. After years and years of negotiations, and after a previous agreement, by the way, between the Soviet Union and the United States, they had a non-attack pact with weather weapons from the 60s. So please, what are people talking about that these weapons don't exist? And let me ask you this. What other weapons and methods and technologies that we are not using? That's the whole problem. That people, that's the foremost sign of an undeveloped, idiotic, moronic society, is that everything we can do, we are doing. That's what makes us so dumb as a collective, excuse me, because we can't restrain ourselves, and everything that we develop, or insane psychopaths develop, they are using. Ask the people of Lahaina. A year and change later, who exactly has been held accountable? Is there a 15-minute city implemented? Will we see 15-minute cities in Asheville, North Carolina? You can bet we will. Will land be confiscated? Well, you can bet it will be. Will they be looking for rare earth minerals with their huge deposits in that area? And will that now be a priority? Well, you can bet it will be. It's what always happens. What was Operation Popeye when we're talking about, since we're talking about weather modification? Operation Popeye was a covert U.S. military weather modification program conducted during the Vietnam War from 67 to 72, because we didn't have those weapons, right? The goal was to extend the monsoon season over enemy supply routes, primarily the Ho Chi Minh Trail, by introducing rain through cloud seeding. This would cause heavy rains, muddy roads, and slow enemy movement, making it harder for North Vietnamese forces to transport supplies. Okay, so what we wanted to show is that these things are existing, have existed, and have only been sophisticated since. Anomalies, such as the frequency, bursts that we've seen, and the radar bursts that we've seen, are probably just the ones that people caught and that can be seen and detected with officially available tools. I would assume that a lot was done to that storm and around that storm that we cannot know about because we don't even know these technologies exist. Now, does that mean that every weather event is a steered or is a created or controlled event? Well, I'll refer you back to an expert, someone who's been doing this research for decades, who has dedicated his life to this, Dane Wigging from geoengineeringwatch.org, and he simply says we don't have any natural weather patterns. We don't have them. So whatever you look at, it's been messed with so much that you can't call anything natural weather. I think that these things have gone out of control. You have a perfect storm with extremely warm Gulf water this year, which of course helps to increase the energy of such storms. And then you would have to ask yourself why, this was such a massive system, and why the inland damage hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the ocean. So when a storm makes landfall, within a few hundred miles, the wind starts to slow down because, it's over land mass. And usually the problem is rain and flooding. But the amount of rain that came down and the flooding and the dams breaking, all of this is completely unprecedented and hard to explain unless you mess with this greatly. Now, the thing is, people say over and over again when we discuss all kinds of things on this channel, they say, well, John, what you don't understand, and you haven't done your research, patriots are in control. The good guys have it all, and the good guys are playing out the movie for the benefit of the people. Okay, I'll entertain this for a moment. So the good guys are in control. The patriots are in control. The good folks around Trump, right? The white hats are in control. Well, the white hats don't like North Carolina. They don't like Tennessee. They don't like Florida. They don't like Georgia. So they're doing this. They're doing this for the benefit of the people. They're burning down Lahaina just to show the people that, that's insanity is possible. They are blowing up meat plants, and they're blowing up food production centers all over the United States. They're causing droughts and extreme dry conditions. They are killing millions of livestock because of bird flu and what. You're telling me that's the good guys in control? Please. At this point, it's just complete. It's such cognitive dissonance and lunacy, because if that's the good guys in control, we're fucked. Literally, if that's the good guys in control. So, I'll say this because I get this so often, and people are saying that I simply don't understand how this movie works. Yeah, this movie sucks if it is a movie, and it tells you one thing, that the good guys are just the white hats are just as bad as the black hats. There you have it. If that is what you believe, then it's insane. It is literally insane. It is also insane that apparently we have technologies that could actually, if this is a natural weather event, technologies that could weaken such storms. Now, should we use such technologies? Should there be a public discussion about any kind of modification use? Yes, okay, yeah, there should be, but there isn't. People should very well be a part of that, right? But people weren't a part of whether the human genome should be altered through medical intervention, 2021 and onward. They weren't part of that discussion. They weren't part of nanoparticles being dispersed through the air, through the water into food, and through self-replicating systems that are, hackable, changeable. So the human animal literally is now hackable, as Yuval Harari says. That's all on the watch of the good guys in control. Are you still believing this insane fairy tale? And why am I bringing this up? Because this story of the good guys are in control, they're playing the movie, they're showing the movie. Something is happening, don't get me wrong. Something very strange is happening. This is not normal. Nothing is normal. The government's not normal. A lot of federal buildings are shut down. The way the administration, I'm not saying it's normal at all. There is some operation in place. I'm just saying it does not appear even one bit to be to the benefit of the people. So what is all this information useful for? Well, the truth leads us to liberation. We can liberate ourselves from fairy tales and stories that we make up to make ourselves feel better, and actually assume full responsibility for our lives, for our actions, and what we decide on. You know, people are going to make all kinds of decisions in the next few weeks and months, and I would love for people to make decisions based on facts, not on fairy tales. So, you know, I'm looking at the devastation in all sectors of society. I'm looking at the destruction and downfall of society right now. And what I am and what our work is aiming at is to see that the only solution out of this is the sovereignization of ourselves. We need to become sovereigns again. We need to finally take charge in our own lives and take responsibility, because these people, these insane psychopaths, you see what they're doing. You see what they're doing on a daily basis. By the way, and this is also today, just wanted to add this. There was a massive nationwide Verizon outage, biggest provider. There was, connected to that because they share some of the infrastructure, some AT&T outage. I would just say that this is now far beyond coincidence. Too many outages in the last weeks and months. Too many. Remember the big thing on the airports, the Microsoft firewall update? No, was it CrowdStrike firewall update? And small mistake, little mistake in the code. Billions of people stranded. You know, the bullshit stories that the media peddles. I would get ready. I would prepare. We also have a massive port strike that is beginning tomorrow in the United States. That's going to cause unprecedented disruptions in the supply chain. That is massive. So, well, here's your October surprise. We have it all. It's all here. It's all unfolding, and this month is probably going to be a perfect storm. We also have 2 more hurricanes coming up. The Atlantic and the Gulf. So we'll see how that plays out. That's all going to happen in the next 6 days or so. So, friends, we said this was coming. This has been here. This is intensifying. And here's the beautiful part. When we empower ourselves, we can thrive nonetheless. We can empower ourselves to make good decisions. We can become ready for unexpected event, and we can finally stop waiting for the knight on the white horse that's not coming. There's no one coming to save you. There's no one coming to save me either, by the way. But guess what? Looking in the mirror, I'm pretty confident you should be too. It's all within you. You have it. You have the abilities. You can find the information. You can do it. The emphasis is on doing it. You know, waiting, wishing, hoping. Those are very, very bad life strategies. And the larger alternative community, whether that's spiritual or in the media, they have done a good job at seducing people into these strategies. Hope, wait, wish. Trump's going to fix it. Let's fix it ourselves, my friends. These are the messages that we felt empowered by when somebody had actually enough respect for me as a reader of a book or a viewer of a documentary or a viewer of a video. When somebody had enough respect to tell me to my face, they're bullshitting you. You have to do it. You are the one you've been waiting for. That was the most empowering message of my life, and now all I'm doing is passing it on to you. I don't care if you're 19 or 79. The message is still the same. There is no one coming to save us. It's us. It's always been us. What can people do in terms of practical preparation? Well, and anything that you could think of, from a bug out bag to supplies, to a spiritual preparedness for very, very unconventional times. I mean, we've been in unconventional times. If you start your day with a morning practice like the 15-day higher consciousness challenge, still in the video description, you can start it today. Today's the first day if you want to. Those are all things that empower people greatly. And people are gaining. They're gaining energy, creativity, ideas, visions. There's no time like the present. Just because the world is going through this incredibly challenging transformation doesn't mean that all our lives individually have to become shitty. As a matter of fact, I've said this many times before. I've always felt that through all changes and crises, there were always people who thrived. Always. It's a choice. Why don't we choose that? I would suggest we choose that. When you go to the grocery store today and you're not in Asheville and you can actually go to the grocery store today, buy a bag of rice. I mean, I was just out in the wilderness for, not too long ago for a few days. We didn't bring any food but a bag of rice. We were setting traps, but we knew we were going to be probably not long enough out there to get anything. So all we ate was a half a bowl of rice every day. You can get by. It's not perfect, but you can get by, and it will last you a long time. Get a bag of rice, get some water, start preparing, my friends. Start preparing. As you can see, from the east to the west and from the north to the south, every region is affected by something. Some have earthquakes, some have droughts, some have fires, some have floods, some have tornadoes, some have hurricanes, some have snowstorms, but everyone's getting something. And they're not letting up. Half of this, at least, half of this wouldn't have to be there, if not more, but they are not letting up. What is the ultimate changer of the game? Guess what? It's not bigger weapons. It's not an army. It's the elevation of human consciousness. That is the wild card. Nobody can anticipate what happens when consciousness is elevated. Ask the folks in DC, the Miracle of 93 in Washington, DC, when a bunch of experienced meditators practiced transcendental meditation, and within a short period of time, over the summer of 93, they brought down the crime rate, violent crime rate, by up to 25%, something that everyone said is impossible. They didn't talk to people. They didn't do campaigns. They didn't take away weapons. They simply raised the overall level of consciousness. This is what you do when you have a daily practice, breathwork, meditation, deep prayer. You raise your own level of consciousness, and you also raise the level of consciousness of where you are. Places, houses, land has consciousness too, and levels of consciousness as well. This is what you can do every day. By the way, you can get today, right now, after you log off here, you can click on a link in the description, start a free trial for one of the greatest services in the world today, FLFE. Focused life force energy, no AI, no frequency bullshit. It's quantum entanglement. Creates a high consciousness field right where you are. You can do that today. No credit card needed, no subscription. It's completely free for 15 days. You have nothing to lose. No accidental subscription. You know how many people are not doing that? Not even giving it a try? I don't understand that. I don't understand how a gift, how people don't accept such beautiful gifts. And what company does that? What company just gives away something, no strings attached, no credit card, no nothing? Just give it a try. See if you like it. FLFE, links in the description. I would hope that by now, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of our viewers have at least tried it. Many have subscribed because it's one of the greatest services in the world today. And they won't ever, by the way, ever advertise that. But there were some miraculous stories with properties that were on the FLFE service. What they will advertise, because they have hard, solid evidence, is much better sleep, much better energy, more harmony in the home. They will advertise EMF mitigation. They will advertise a much more potent soil. Properties that are on the service, the soil heals much faster, is much more nutrient dense, plant growth, you name it. I mean, there's 60, 70 effects that are proven. So yeah, negative energy clearing. So when your property gets on the service, first day during the trial, free trial, right? Remember, first day it gets on the service, the first thing that happens is energy clearing of the property. Negative energy, maybe your house is built on a war zone, former cemetery, whatever. Negative energy clearing. So we are talking about so many solutions, but the key element here is people have to do it. Do what you can with what you have where you are. That is the winning strategy to become the best possible version of yourself. One more time. Do what you can with what you have where you are to become the best possible version of yourself. Intuition, when you're connected, will guide you. It'll let you know what to do and when to do it. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. All our love goes out to the folks in the affected areas, and we will we're not doing any Red Cross bullshit. We're not doing any big charity bullshit. These people are keeping 95% for their pockets, and the rest is bullshit. So as soon as we have trusted people on the ground that we know that we can collaborate with, as soon as any form of transportation is established, when these areas are not cut off any longer, we will let you know how we can help, where we can help, and then we'll ask you to do it together. All right, my friends, we love you all. We appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon.
And right now, you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.